Hello, everybody. Reggie Time here, and a new student of mine has sent me a video of his play for me to review. He's not been having a great time of it recently. He's a relatively new player. He's not super experienced, but he seems really keen as mustard. Things haven't been going too great for him, as I said. So he sent me this video. I'm going to review it. I haven't watched this video at all. I'm watching it the first time I'm seeing things is they're playing out, and I'm just going to give my honest thoughts on his play and what I think he's doing well, what I think he's doing not so well, and this video may never see the light of day. I'm going to ask him if we can upload to YouTube too, because I think it'll be an interesting video for some of you guys to watch as well. So hopefully he'll let me do that. If he doesn't, then fine. I guess just he'll be watching it. But yeah, this is like not something that I've done before, really, as someone who's been trying to work with people and help them. Very rare I'll do it. Normally I'll review videos with people together, but he specifically asked me to review it alone and to give him feedback. So I'm doing it and I'm recording it to upload to show to him, but I'm recording this separate little intro as well, because if he says to me, yep, you can show it on YouTube, then great, it's just some extra content for me. And if he says, no, you can't, then never mind. We'll just move on. So I hope you enjoy it. I'm not going to pretend that all my analysis is going to be super cutting edge. It's just going to be my honest opinion on any good or bad things that I think he's doing relative to the pool at general micro stakes poker. So yeah, hope you guys enjoy it, and yeah, give me some feedback beneath the video. So here we go. We are reviewing Jörg's hands. Here we have. It says we're watching this back on 1.5 times speed to get through the dull bits quicker. There's no offence to you, sir. It's just, well, there's no need to watch it at normal paces when we can just pause and look at the spots. So we have 2 aces here. We've got a 2.6 big blind button open. I'd like to see us make this in the region of 10 blinds. Wouldn't be disappointed to see more than 10 blinds. Certainly not less, though. What is 4x? 4x is going to be like 10.4 bigs. Seems reasonable to me. 11.2. Lovely. Love to see it. And we just took it down, which is unsurprising and disappointing. Flopped a set of sevens on a very wet board. Now, we were the pre-flop raiser here, and we are going to check. Maybe by the look of it, I would really dislike a check on this board. Let me just rewind to make sure that we were the pre-flop raiser before I go off on a tangent. Oops, what's going on here? Let's just rewind it a little bit. It's going to come up next, isn't it? Pretty sure we 3x. Yeah, we did 3x. So we're the pre-flop raiser. Don't check. Now we need bet. I like that. I think we just definitely need to be betting those boards. We don't block a lot of the strong hands we'd like our opponent to have. We don't block like 10-9. We do block flush draws a little bit, but yeah, it's just a scary, dangerous board. Lots of turn cards that can really kill our action against top pairs, etc. If he's in there with a 10 jack type hand, there's lots of cards that can either kill our action or just not be good for pocket sevens. Any 9, 10, 6, heart, all action killers. We want to try and get some money in the pot as quickly as possible. We turn quads. I'm glad you barreled, because we can still get lots of action from Jack X. Still get lots of action from draws. He doesn't have overpairs here very often, almost never. So he's going to fold a decent chunk of the time here, I would imagine. I mean, if he's floated flops to try and take it away on turns, we kind of prevent it from doing that now by betting again. But yeah, I still like betting. I mean, I suppose we could sometimes pop a check raise in there. It's a very small check raise, but I like just continuing betting in general. We'd want to continue with all our draws here with the bet, so we better be continuing. We've got quads too. That's a lovely river card. I think the problem, if we're going to go with the big bet here, is that we need to have very specific hands to call. I'm dealing with like into a 10 in his hand, which you can have a lot of. You can have plenty of 10x that gets to this river, I suppose. But if I was going to bet, I'd want to bet on the smaller side, but not super small. He's going to call almost any size if he has a straight, or if he somehow, has a pocket 8 or something like that. There's no size he isn't calling. But I like the idea of like allowing you to call with the jack with our sizing, and you choosing a size which sometimes might induce some like spewy jams if he reads our sizing as weak. So I'd much prefer to see a bet here in the region of, I don't know, 20 to 22, 23 big blinds, something like that. Puts him in a tough spot with all these just one pair stuff like Jack X. If he's made a straight, then we're definitely going to get called by that. We'll get called with a bigger bet. But if we just bet like 20 something blinds here, he might just decide to just rip miss flush draws, which if we bet too big, he's not going to do. So I think overall here, I prefer to see a size between 20 to 24 bigs at the biggest, I think. I think it's a little too big, and we do get the fold. Here we have packet 5s in the small blind. Be interested to see what you do with this. Lots of players would not tolerate calling at all in this spot. Many players are very much in the 3-bet or fold club from the small blind, and it's hard to make an argument against that based on like how we're supposed to play and how computers want to play. But we're not playing computers, we're playing human beings, and we look at this guy in the big blind currently just V-pipping. I don't know on GG if that's flop scene percentage or V-pip. But either way, it's tight. So we're just super unlikely to get squeezed by this guy. Now I'd much prefer to see us call than 3-bet or fold here. Try and flop a set. As you can, you're doing all different things. I don't like the 3-bet personally. Yeah, we're going to get a lot of folds, but if we do get called, then my hand has 0 playability post flop unless a beautiful 5 pops up. If we get 4-bet, we just have to fold our hand, and quite often we're going to be getting 4-bet by a hand that we have reasonable equity against. So I don't like the 3-bet. I do like the sizing though. And we just take it down. Looks like we've defended a raise here with the ace and the 7. I don't like that. Don't like this at all. It's been made 3x pre-flop. We have a pretty fucking ugly hand. If this is a smaller raise, that was a min raise, we'd have to defend. 2.5x, don't know. It would depend very much on the play. I mean, this guy looks like he's pretty active. 43%, whatever that is, flop scene or PFR. So I understand maybe why you want to defend hands like this, but they're just so difficult to play post flop. You make the best hand unless you're up against a crazy guy who bluffs a lot. You're not going to make a lot of money. And if you make top pair with an ace or even with a 7 and don't have the best hand, it can get quite expensive quite quickly. Don't like this defend. I would be folding this versus a 3x all day. And now we're just going to need to check fold. And it seems like soft leaks like that, like just defending too many hands from the blinds that don't have an awful lot of post-up playability. It's little subtle things like that that many players who are struggling have. that they maybe don't even notice. They just think, oh, that's a standard defend. Oh, I've missed, let's check fold. But that's what can fuck a lot of people up. Most players who are doing okay but not crushing, or breaking even or slightly losing, probably aren't losing from the non-blind position. So probably making money with all the hands that they like voluntarily put chips in with. Not from like early position to button, but they cannot overcome their losses from the blinds because they defend too many hands. They defend too many bad hands and then end up playing out of position against generally a field that isn't completely incompetent anymore. Maybe back in the day you could afford to defend your blinds well because players were just so bad. And that's not the case now. But I mean, even at 5 and L, 10 and L, players, what's the field? It's 70% at least semi-competent regulars. To me, there's just no juice in defending hands like Ace-7 from the blinds anymore. And lots of other hands that I see people defending. I see lots of people defending stuff like, I don't know, fucking 7-5 offsuit, 9-7 offsuit, and all kinds of just nonsense, rubbish combinations where you think you're getting a reasonable price pre-flop to defend, but you're not factoring rake in, and you're not factoring that perhaps we're just not good enough to play a lot of the spots post flop out of position in a high rake environment. So it's like little things like that. If you're doing that, but who knows how many times. But if you're doing that too often with all kinds of like marginal offsuit holdings, you're going to have a loss rate in the blinds that's going to be very close to impossible to overcome. Just playing like if you're struggling in the micro stakes, one of the first bits of advice I would give you is tighten the fuck right up in the blinds, both small and big blind. Just don't fight too hard from the blinds. Games are pretty tight. In the micro stakes, people aren't opening anywhere near wide enough from the cutoff or the button. Yeah, some regulars are. You get some regulars that are just opening like probably too much from the button, probably opening over opening. But generally speaking, most players are not playing wide enough, especially from the cutoff and then also from the button, to make you want to defend too many hands and then face the disadvantage of being out of position in a high rake environment post flop. Probably one of my biggest strengths, in my opinion, is that I don't get too hung up on defending my blinds. Am I open to exploitation from some aggressive regulars? Yeah, probably. How much are they exploiting me for? Probably not a lot. Stealing the blinds is nice, but it's not a lot of money. No one's ever going to get rich from doing it. And just tightening right the fuck up from the blinds is one of the go-to things for me when I'm working with people. One of the first things I look at, right, is what's going on in the blinds. What are we doing? If you're struggling really badly, we're probably going to work on just tightening you the fuck right up in the blinds first of all, because you can cut chunks out of a losing win rate just by tightening up from the blinds, just by folding more. And it seems counterintuitive to some people, but if you just fold more in the blinds, if you're losing at say 55 bigs 100 in the blinds, that's huge. It's almost insurmountable. So if you just cut that win rate down to, that loss rate down to 35 or 36 bigs 100, then that's huge. It's absolutely huge. And you can do that literally just by folding more and just not putting yourself in lots of needless, irritating, tough spots where you're losing money. And more importantly, you're losing confidence. So yeah, just fold more from the blinds, especially versus 3Xs. I like the 3-bet with the king queen off. What size we're going to make this? I mean, normally I would say in a raked environment, we're wanting to just take more pots down pre-flop. Obviously with king we're wanting some action, but generally speaking, when we're 3-betting, we're probably going to be happy taking it down pre-flop more often. But I believe, and this could have changed, but GG used to charge a rake even on pots that were won without seeing a flop. So I'm not sure that's the case on GG, but either way, typically speaking, we want to be making these versus a 3x. You don't want to be going less than 10 here, I don't think, because most of the time, not in this occasion because we have two kings, but most of the time you're going to be happy when you get a fold. If we had ace queen here, for example, we just had the 3-bet. We don't really want action. We're happy just to take the pot down pre-flop, pick up what's in there. If we get action, we have the backup of having a decent hand that's going to do okay post-flop, which is why we choose those types of hands to 3-bet with. But most of the time when we're 3-betting pre, we should be happy when we just take it down. The exception to that is going to be when we have like kings, aces, sometimes queens, etc. So let's see what size we make it. 9, tiny bit on the small side, but it's obviously fine. It's 3x the open. I'm not going to nitpick too much about it. We get the cold call out of the big blind, which is very, very often just going to be capped at stuff like ace queen, maybe ace jack suited, lots of like jacks, 10s, 9s, 8s, that type of thing. So given we've got 2 players in this pot with us, our kings are already a little bit vulnerable, because the problem here is if it's going to check to us a lot. We're going to see bet representing a very strong hand. It's not going to be too hard to put us on like pocket aces, pocket kings. So our opponent should be able to fold pretty tightly. If either of them have got jacks or queens, and of course not, we're going to get lots of value from that. But lots of hands like ace king, ace queen, ace jack that have flatted are probably just going to check fold. If it checks to us, it's not a spot, in my opinion, for a huge bet. I think probably we want to be going less than half pot in this spot. If we get led into, it gets very dicey. Just check to us. I think that's just too big, buddy. A lot of the hands on 9, 10 deuce that we'd like to get called by in a single race pot, that could still be out there. Like there's lots of open enders and gut shots, like queen king, jack queen, maybe even jack a, 8-7. Those hands just aren't there. So we're not as scared of like a straightening card coming on this board as we would be in a single raise pot. We don't need to be betting over 2/3 pot here. I think it's too big. If we get check raise, we're going to have to go with our hand, but we're probably going to be up against sets quite often. Maybe once in a while someone check raises jacks or queens here. They just don't have enough draws in their range for when they check raise for us to for them to have enough bluffs in the range, in my opinion. This bet might work. We might just take the pot down. But if we get called, then it's dicey. If we get raised, it's super dicey. I'd like to assume a smaller bet here. You get called. This is just a fold for me now. It's a 3-bet pot. We're up against 2 opponents. This guy, who knows what he's fucking doing. This guy's jammed. Now and again, someone might be overplaying pocket queens and putting us in the bin. But I think it's a pretty grim spot. I like fold personally, and I'm prepared. I haven't watched this video yet, so I'm prepared to be very wrong on this. But it feels like a spot where typically in microstakes poker, when we 3-bet, we get a cold call and then the pre-flop raiser calls, and then we get check call and then an all in. It's just going to be way too likely this guy's just going to have a set of 9s or 10s in my book. Maybe slow played aces. 10-9, which is virtually the same thing. And he does have the jack queen, so he's not played the hand well and looks like he's going to be the guy that comes out with the reward. This is just not a flat pre-flop. It's just not a thing. He's only playing 14% of hands or seeing 14% to flops, whichever that is. But this just shouldn't be happening pre-flop. Once he comes, he has to defend his 10-9 suited, so his play's fine. But there was very little chance that our kings were going to be in good shape here. And sadly, they've been ran down. And we're peeling it off slowly. We're going to hit a king and he's going to be no fucking use to us. Here we've flopped up pair, looks like with the pre-flop raiser, like the c-bet sizing. We take it down. Not sure why we didn't see bet this flop with our threes. It's very unlikely they're going to, get to showdown and be a winner too often. Yeah, I mean, this guy's just defending like an ace six or whatever, some suited connectors. But on that king nine deuce, pretty dry flop. Yeah, there's a flush draw out there. Yeah, there's a couple of good shots around the jack 10, jack queen. But yeah, I think I just like betting that flop and picking up any dead money that's out there. I mean, maybe it works on the turn. It does. We take it down, but just bet the flop, mate. You got relatively dry board. Your opponent's going to have a lot of stuff that's just check folding that also has equity. If you're in there with like a 6-7 of hearts, for example, then yeah, he's just you're giving him a shot to realise he's probably 30% equity, or realise some of his 30% equity. Ace 3-3 here, super dry. We don't have a 3-street hand. I don't know. I mean, it's a flop that we theoretically should be betting with a very high frequency. It should be like it's a high frequency, small sizing type of situation. I think most players here would just be betting, close to 100% of their range, probably for like a 1/3 pot type sizing. So if you do go with like a 2.2x, 2.2 big blind c bet here, I have no issue with it. But it's a spot I don't mind checking back. And sometimes at opponents, and I've seen it happen many times, we just have a hand like pocket sixes and they just stab the turn. They will probably call a c bet with that too. But we don't have a 3-street hand. I'm happy checking here. Maybe our opponents start bluffing a little bit. If they do have a better ace, then it just give us like an element of pot control against the hand that has us beat. As I said, I just don't think we have a 3-street hand. It's going to be really difficult for us to bet 3 streets here and get called on all 3 of them whilst having the winner. So it's a spot where I personally will pop in some check backs from time to time, especially against players who I think are aggressive, because A, I don't want to be check raised, and B, I want to give them an opportunity to stab against my check backs. And also I quite like that because then if we, the times where we're going to want to check back our hands and not have our opponent just auto bet into us because, you know, this board's difficult for us to have too many hands. But if you just say we wanted to check back, say a hand like pocket jacks here, we just don't want our opponent to always be a double barrel as turn and river and get us off our hand. Whereas if we like sometimes put some of our weaker ace into a calling range here, it just makes it less profitable for them to like probe turns and barrel rivers against us when we cap our range slightly. So I personally would favour a check back here, but there's obviously no problem at all with a smallish bet. You do go with a check back, we turn a boat, we're not getting paid anything here. Oh, okay, we are getting paid something. It's going to be really hard for our opponent to call us with a worse hand here. This pot size bet, we're going to need to have pure bluff catches. We're going to need him to be a serious non-believer with a hand like pocket sevens for this size to work. I mean, I don't know what size I would choose here, but it wouldn't be full pot. I mean, I'd probably be targeting hands like medium pairs here and probably going relatively small. I'd probably see myself most of the time here going like maybe 6 to 7 blinds and just putting his medium pairs in a tougher spot than this. I mean, if he's in here with a hand like pocket sevens, this gives him a really easy fold unless he's a total donut. I preferred a much smaller size than that. Just to try and get paid. We're probably not getting paid whatever size we. Wow, he's just got another full out. So this is just chop chop now, isn't it? I'm not sure why we're not raising though. I mean, we are raising. That's okay. And yeah, chop it up. chop it up. Another 3-bet with the king queen. I like it. And now we have a fold. I like it. Well, I don't like it. I don't like the fact we've had to 3-bet fold, but I like your line. Here we have a situation on a board that heavily favours the big blind, but we have a hand that has no showdown value. I think we need to decide here. You know, we probably should bet this flop. We need to decide before we bet this flop how aggressive we think our opponent is and how often he's going to check raise us. I wouldn't hate a check back because I think we are going to get raised a decent amount on this board where it's just like way better for the big blinds defending range than it is our range. So I wouldn't hate a check because we are going to get raised so frequently. But maybe we have enough. If we bet small and get raised small, maybe that's fine. I wouldn't favour a large bet here at all. In fact, no. In fact, I don't favour betting here at all. I favour just checking back because I don't want us to bet big, and I don't think betting small achieves very much. So, yeah, I think I like check back. We did go with a big bet, which would be my. If we are going to bet there, probably prefer the bigger one, but don't really love it. Oh, what have we just done there, sir? We just folded 10 jack suited under the gun in a 5-handed game. Don't like that. And I've said in recent videos that I favour playing tightly from early and middle position. We're effectively in middle position here. But even for someone like myself who probably plays way tighter than 80% of the field in these seats, in these spots, even Jack 10 suit is just an open for me. Maybe that's just a lapse in concentration. But if you're routinely folding Jack 10 suited from any position when you're not in the blinds and it's folded to you, I mean, it's just an open from all positions. And even versus a single open, we're going to want to play it in some way, either by flatting with it or by 3-betting with it. Folding with it's just too tight. And this is kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier. We're folding a hand as pretty as Jack 10 suited in a 5-handed poker game, but down here earlier on, we defended Ace 7 off when we were going to be out of position to a 3x open. And this opening this hand is very profitable. Defending Ace 7 isn't very profitable. So that's two things you've done. That the long term, if you're routinely doing the A7 defender and you're routinely folding the Jack 10, that are going to have negative effects on your win rate. So we need to be. I mean, I think we could be opening down as low as 9-8 suited from the middle position, depending on who's in the pot behind us and what have you. But yeah, I mean, 9-8 suited is going to be a pretty standard open. Some players will open even wider, 8-7 suited. I don't personally very often, unless it's fish in the blinds, which appears to be here. But Jack 10 suited is just way too tight. And that comes from someone like myself who is a confirmed and proud nit. Imagine how this hand would have gone down had we opened the Jack 10. We would have got a flop we could see bet with our open ended to the nuts against top pair. We would have had a turn we could double barrel on. Top pair maybe then folds, maybe doesn't, who knows. And they, fair enough, I get the river would have been difficult. But that would have been pretty good spot, especially if this guy came along too, which he probably wouldn't have. But he might have called the flop with his backdoor flush draw. So I mean, yeah, the river would have been shit for us, but you can see like just how much equity we would have flopped and then turned. It's just a really good opportunity for us to put tons and tons of pressure on. I mean, imagine we opened and call, etc.
then we bet very big on the flop, say 80%, 75, 80% pot. We maybe get 2 callers. Probably only one if we bet big. I think the ace deuce probably goes away. So the queen jack calls us in position a decent amount of time. We get the turn 4 of clubs and we just fucking bomb again. We could even consider over betting, and we just get the best hand to fold an awful lot of the time. Yeah, if he's super sticky and this comes down, we probably just give up and then he wins the pot. But we do just look at the great before this river card. Look at the great situation we would have had we opened our hand and we just walked away from it pre-flop. Here we have the 2 nines. I favour just calling here personally. It doesn't look like we've got a particularly good table to be fair, but it's GG. There's not going to be many good tables, full stop. It's disappointing if we get squeezed, but we don't want to be taking a hand like 2 nines here and 3 betting them against what's likely to be a pretty solid opening range under the gun. We're just going to get 4 bet or folded too often, neither of which we really want when we've got 2 nines. I'm not sure what the computers are saying these days for these spots. Maybe at higher stakes, this is just always a 3 bet because people just have wider ranges opening under the gun. I could be persuaded that 3 bets a good play, but personally, I just don't think we're going to get squeezed enough. And I think the value of flopping a set potentially in a multi-way pot is better than 3 betting and whatever can happen from the 3 bet. I think there's more EV in just flatting and flopping a set long term than there is in 3 betting, but I could be wrong. Here, when our opponent checks on Jack, Jack, Deuce, I mean, he should be c betting pretty high frequency here, theoretically, I think, but in practice, it's a tough trigger to pull. When you're out of position, I mean, if he's trying to be tricky, I guess he can still have some better hands. Pocket tens is the most obvious one, but maybe some players are checking all their over pairs here. Don't think many players have the discipline to check Jack X here, and I think that's probably correct because I don't think enough players in position have the strength to run a multiple street bluff here with a weak hand either. So it's a bit of a spot where no one's super happy. Whatever he's got, he's not happy unless he's got a jacks. Whatever we've got, we're not happy unless we've got a jack. I think if I was you here, I would probably bet smallish because I'd want to just attack players who look like they're capping their range. So I'd like to bet small here, and then probably just trying to apply quite a lot of pressure to his ace queen, ace king, ace 10, stuff like that have opened and I'm just checking. Maybe we get some value from his underpairs. It's not a great spot for we're not going to whatever we do here. We're not going to be printing money, but I think I favour a small bet to begin with. We decided not to do it. Now he bets and we have it. Right, fine. I get that we have an easy call, but I don't like how quickly you did it. If we just take a look at bet snap call, we barely, the time. So I get that you're checking back that flop and you're not folding this turn. I understand it's a really easy decision for us to make, but when we act super quickly, then our opponent knows we're never considering raising, or never considering folding. So I think it's easier to narrow our hand down to something like middle pocket pairs and ace high. 'Cause you know, if we did have a jack there, we would have taken slightly more time over our decision. Um, yeah, I mean, it's not a big thing, but I don't like the snap call. Our opponent checks here, so it looks like he's kind of giving up. I don't think he'd check a full house here like pocket queens, pocket kings, pocket aces. I think he would definitely be betting those hands. I like a really small bet here, like, and I mean really small, like, I don't know, quarter pot, 1/3 pot, something like that. Again, maybe it induces occasional spewy raise. He's certainly gonna have to call lots of hands if we bet like 4 big blinds here. That's too big. I mean, it might work, but it feels too big to me. When you're betting on the river for thin value, like we are with nines there, nines it's not a super thin because it's a small pot and we almost always have the best hand, but it's thin in terms of like what worse hands are going to call us. So if you're betting rivers and it's a pretty thin spot in a pretty small pot, you just have to sight accordingly. You have to think about what parts of my opponent's range am I targeting here, and you're targeting like worse pocket pairs than yours, of course, and is some of his ace highs and maybe even some of his king highs. You know, you're gonna want to be getting lots of calls from his ace highs there, and I think you sized your bet too big. You made it an easy enough fold for ace five in a spot where you're just not going to have many bluffs. I mean, we check back the flop, we just call the turn, and then the river's checked to us. We're going to have lots of weak hands when we get to the river the way it's played, I suppose. But I mean, a lot of our weak hands just fold the turn on a jack, 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 deuce board or whatever it was. So we're just not getting to after we call the turn, we're not getting to the river with any like, really weak hands. So we're not going to have a lot of bluffs. So it's going to be quite easy for our opponents to fold quite tightly there. So when we bet 2/3 pot, a lot of their ace high hands is going to have really easy folds. His pocket threes, pocket sevens up, pocket eights, whatever there's on the board that isn't a full house, they're going to have an easier fold. So yeah, just when you get into the river, we did the same earlier with the ace, with the full house aces down here. We can't just be like, oh, I have best hand, I'm going to bet big. You have to think about your opponent's range and what in his range you're targeting. What do you want him to do? You know, if you're making a bluff on the river and you're trying to get someone to fold third pair, you don't need to go that big, for example. You know, you might think you need to, but you don't. You know, I mean, if just say the pot's 20 blinds on a river and you're trying to get someone off a pair of eights that was just at the bottom was king, queen, eight, deuce, four, and they've called twice or they've called once, and you're trying to make them fold specifically a pair worse than the queen, then you don't need to bet very big because all that happens is if you bet small, yeah, they're not folding the kings or the queens, but they weren't folding them anyway. And by betting bigger, all you do is just make your plus more expensive and no more effective really. It's the same with your value bets. Just target what am I trying to achieve here, and what is the best size for achieving that. So if you're trying to make someone fold top pair on a very connected board, you're probably going to want to bet very big. If you're trying to make somebody fold third pair on a pretty dry board, you're probably going to want to go small. If you want people to call with their bluff catchers, their pure bluff catchers, you probably want to go small again. So just think about your opponent's range before you choose your bet size, and hopefully that will help you find more appropriate sizes for your bets. Right, we're not even halfway through this video yet, and we're going to speed up to double speed, otherwise it's going to take all day, and we're still not going to miss any action. So I'm not disrespecting your video, sir. It's just we're not missing any action by increasing the speed. I like the 4 with the 7s there. Lots of players aren't making it. So here we have the 9-8 suited. I think this hand, in the olden days, this was a flat all day, every day. You just love to see it. You know, you just love to be playing the 9x suited versus pretty tight under the gun ranges. I know lots of players now are favouring 3-betting this hand. And it would depend what we think we know about this player. I mean, it looks like he's pretty loose. So I think against, if this was this guy opening, but he had a bigger stack, let's try and find someone at a different table who's tight. But this guy, if this was a tight player opening and he had a fat stack, I think I'd be more likely to call, because I wouldn't want a 3-bet versus someone who's playing pretty tight, because we're going to get 4-bet too often. And we're not going to get enough folds. So I wouldn't want a 3-bet against a tight player, but against someone who's playing 31% of hands, looks like they're playing that many hands, although it's probably a small sample size, it's GG, etc. I think I favour a 3-bet against people who I think are opening too wide from all positions, and I favour flatting against people who I think are playing too tight from all positions. If I was playing against me here, I would prefer to flat against me. If I was playing against this guy, I prefer to 3-bet, just because he's going to have to fold so often. He's not going to have as many hands that are going to want to 4-bet, because he's going to have an awful lot of weak hands in there that he's either going to, you know, want to defend. And imagine he's got a hand like, I don't know, Ace Jack here, and he decides not to fold it, which he should do, but he decides not to fold it. He's got a significantly better hand than us, but once we 3-bet, we're probably a favourite to win the pot. So I would 3-bet against this guy. I would flat against a tighter player. We have gone with the 3-bets way too small, though, sir. Interesting that when you had pocket kings in this exact same spot earlier, you made it 9x. Now you've got 9x suited, you're making it 8x. It's just a subtle thing, but if anyone picks up on it and it is a sizing tell that you have, then yeah, it's going to be a problem for you. You want to be consistent with your sizings and not altering your sizings based on your hand strength. I do not like this. This is why I favour, we talked earlier about I favour just making it at least 10x versus a 3x open with all of my hands. When we got pocket kings, I get it, we don't want them to fold. When we've got 9-8 suited, fuck me, do we want them to fold? And we're going to have a lot more 9-8 suited, ace, queen, king. We're going to have a lot more hands that just would like our opponent to fold than we are with having hands that we'd like our opponent to defend with. So yeah, this is not good, sir. This is potentially and probably a sizing tell that you've got, albeit may or may not be picked up on by your opponents. And I'm picking up on it because I can see your cards. If your opponents can't see your cards, it's going to take them longer to pick up on it. But if I was this guy, I'd already be thinking, oh, hang on, this guy made it 10x before, now he's making it 8x. Does that mean something? What does it mean? And I'd noticed that pretty much straight away. Yeah, this is just not good. And took it down anyway, so that's fine. But yeah, do not give any obvious sizing tells away. Here looks like we've raised the button with 2 4s. We have, and we've been donked into by a short stack. Excuse me. This is going to be very nitty to some, but I favour just folding here. If he's betting a 5, we're fucked. If he's betting a 10, we're fucked. Not that many draws out there. Yeah, maybe now and again he's just doing this with some shit hand that has no showdown value. But overall here, I think force just falls into a folding range for me. Interesting to see what we do with this king queen suited here, because I suspect you're probably going to 3-bet with it. No, it doesn't matter anyway. Ignore that because it folds to us. So here we again take more time, sir. Take more time. Look how, I know we're watching this on double speed, but look how quick you just call here. 3-bet call. We haven't even used like 10% of our time bank. And that's a problem. With all due respect, if you're coming to someone like me for help who is kind of a very solid player and in my opinion has a lot to offer people like you, but if you're coming to someone for help with your game, then your autopilot and acting fast game is not going to be good enough to allow you to make decisions that quickly. I mean, is this hand to defend? Yes, it almost certainly is. It could sometimes be a 4-bet against some opponents, and sometimes be a call against others. But these are all things you need to consider in the moment. And you didn't give it any consideration there. It looks to me like you just looked at your hand and said, that's pretty damn fucking pretty. I don't care who's 3-bet me. I don't care what style they play. I don't care who they are. I don't care what's going on here. I'm just defending this hand with a call. And it's not good enough. You know, you take your time and you probably come to the same decision. But sometimes, you know, you're going to take your time and come to a different decision with different parts of your range. Yeah, this is a pretty standard call versus a 3-bet blind v blind, I think. But you need to be taking far more time over your decisions. And this is something I say to a lot of players who come my way. It can be too easy when you're playing 4 tables to just be like bang, 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 just making decisions. Your time bank never goes below half. It never goes below a quarter even. It's just bang, bang. You get into a rhythm of autopilot, bang, bang. And the problem is, with all due respect, your autopilot game isn't fucking good enough. So you do not want to be autopiloting your way through these games. You're going to miss too much value. You're going to miss too many spots to bluff. You're going to miss too many spots to make some well-considered folds. Yeah, most losing players probably have an A game that wins, a B game that breaks even, and a C game that loses. But if you're like just flashing through hands, not taking any decision, not taking enough time over your decisions, then you're not going to be in A game territory very often. More often than not, you're going to be in B and C game territory, which means you're either breaking even or losing for the majority of your sessions. Pretty standard check call on this floor. Oh no, not versus that size. I mean, I've no idea if this is the thing or not. I think I kind of like it in a way. It's unusual, which is one of the things I like about it. I mean, theoretically, this should be a small bet, the very high frequency. You know, it's just a 3-bet pot. The board fucking crushes his range. I mean, he should be able to get away with betting like 6 blinds here. And this could be terrible, this sizing, but I kind of fucking like it. I mean, it's going to make us fold our hand, but if he does have like you know, man, the problem is if he has a super strong hand, he blocks our calling range, doesn't he? I don't know. It looks fucking sexy to me anyway. It's probably really, really bad, but it looks sexy and it makes our decision very easy. We just have the most trivial of folds. I thought we called for a minute there. Don't give me a fucking heart attack there, Chief. Like the C-bet here. I mean, we don't love the fact it's king high, but we can get called by so many weaker hands. So yeah, I like the C-bet a lot. And we get it through. Again, I don't love the sizing, 2/3 pot. I think we can probably go smaller, but the most important thing is making sure we get the bet in, and we did. Now I'm dropping fucking tic tacs everywhere, which is very irritating. So we open the tens here. We get 3-bet by someone who looks like they're probably a regular. 22% VPIP seems reggish. Obviously, it's very limited information, but no, it's clearly probably not a total fish. Cutoff versus button is a spot that gets 3-bet a lot. Pocket tens is way too strong to fold. I'd favour folding a lot in these situations, but pocket tens is just way too strong. I think 4-betting is significantly overplaying our hand, especially if we don't have any blockers to any of that at the top of his range. I think we probably just have to call here and then try and negotiate post flop. Looks like we are going to 4-bet. And when this guy cold calls, I mean, yeah, maybe you've got him tagged as a fish. I really don't like a 4-bet here. Yeah, he's put a bit more dead money in, but it's just not going to work very often. And just fold. I mean, yeah, we probably protected our equity there. But when we get a fishy guy calling, and again, this is just a style thing for me because I think maybe quite a few players maybe would 4-bet there. I don't like it. The chances to flop a set in a multi-way 3-bet pot with the player we have tagged as green is that really excites me. You know, we've got a very good chance of getting paid off the maximum if we do flop a set. And if we don't flop a set, you know, and the ball comes low, maybe we can just get to showdown or maybe get some value on later streets, especially from this guy. Yeah, I just find you 4-bet, you've won the pot. Lots of players will be like, yeah, that's cool, get in there, move on. I wouldn't have 4-bet there. Maybe someone's going to come along and tell me that 4-betting is better than flatting. But to me, in these games, I much prefer to flat there. You know, we're closing the action. We're going to have position on the fish, and we have a pretty good hand. If we 4-bet there, he jams. If he just jams ace king, he's going to take us off a lot of equity in a pretty big pot. Yeah, I don't like it personally. Pretty easy c-bet here. I'm going to guess you're going to go with your 2/3 sizing. Down here with the king jack suited, I think I favour a 3-bet if we're going to continue. Although this guy is a fish in the blinds. If he had more chips, I think I'd like calling. But I'm going to ignore him because of his stack. I mean, if we 3-bet and he jams, we have an unhappy call. But yeah, prefer a 3-bet here with the king jack, which we've done. Good stuff. You've missed a slam dunk button open here. We have a fish in the blinds. In fact, we have 2 fish in the blinds. 10-7 suited should be a slam dunk open. We've missed that. And again, little things like that are going to have a huge impact in your win rate long term. This is just an incredibly profitable open from the button, especially into these 2 players. Just too tight. And again, let's just see how quickly you did do the fold. Yeah, look, you're just putting no thought into it, sir. I'm afraid you're just autopiloting too much. Yeah, fair enough. Physically, you can cope with 4 tables. It's obvious, you know, you're not getting caught up. You're not like chiming out anywhere. So physically, you can click the buttons fast enough. But if you're just turbo folding 10-7 suited on the button, it's just not good. It's just not close to good. That it tells me that you haven't got your pre-flop ranges well enough down yet. You know, you're not. I mean, that's just a slam dunk open. It's just a open 100% of the time into these 2 players, and you've turbo folded. So it tells me that you're not well drilled enough in what you're opening from various positions. And if you are well drilled in that, in terms of I know my ranges and I'm going to play them, it tells me that your ranges need work because that is just an open all of the time. Don't hit the flat with the sevens here. Got the 8-6 going on too. This is probably just going to be a check back, if it, I would imagine. Wouldn't want to bluff here versus two opponents. So we have a gut shot here. Maybe we have the best hand once in a while against a fish. Which is that size, probably just like the fold. If it was smaller, I think I'd probably prefer to call. But yeah, against that size, I think folding's fine. With the jacks, I think we should bet. It's like autopilot 2/3 pot. I don't like that either. We want to be using different sizes at different frequencies on different board textures. 60% just seems to be your go-to sizing. I mean, in one respect, I guess if you're using the same size all the time, it disguises your hand strength a little bit. But I don't like it. Again, it's just a bad autopilot leak, in my opinion. We get raised, and while we snap call, I mean, come on, sir, how quick are we doing everything here? I mean, we're just doing everything. I know watching this on double speed, but again, look how, I mean, your time bank just bang, it doesn't go anywhere. I mean, we didn't take any time to consider our opponent's range here. And what could he be check raising here? Top pair, definitely. Sets, definitely. There aren't that many draws out there, like 7-5 suited, 10-9 suited, things like that are his only draws, really. We're just not taking enough time, buddy. I know you've been talking to me a bit, saying that bad things are happening to you, etc., etc. But maybe this is why, because you're just not. Basically, you're just looking at your hand and not considering your opponent's range anywhere near enough. And when we're making decisions, and I know that has to be 100% true, because you're just not taking any time whatsoever. So if you're not taking any time, how on earth are you considering your opponent's range? You bet here really quickly. He raised here really quickly. You called really quickly. What thought has gone into this? You know, almost no thought has gone into it. Yeah, then you just snap fold the turn, which is probably okay, but again, do not like the speed at which you did it. Defended the 4-5 suited here versus 3x. Don't hate it, but we need to defend pretty tightly versus 3x's. We had a pretty good flop though, pretty interesting flop. Not sure. I'm going to be check raising or check calling here, depending on his size. I think versus a small size, I'd probably call. Versus a larger size, I'd probably raise. And that's because versus a small size, we're just getting a better price on our call to draw. Versus a larger size, it's just more dead money or potentially dead money in there to take down with a raise. And we don't mind bloating the pot a little bit because there's going to be plenty enough good turn cards for us. And we're going to donk, which I don't like. Don't like this donk. The board doesn't really favour us. It doesn't favour him either. It's kind of a neutralish kind of board. But yeah, do not like the donk bet. Trying to make sure I don't like it. No, I don't. I do not approve. Don't think we have to open the ace-4 here either. Don't think it's a mandatory open from the button. I mean, we're opening ace-4. We're folding 10-7 suited. Don't like any of that. And then he's got a shit spot against someone who doesn't have any money. We've called. Don't like any of this. Don't necessarily love the open. Don't hate it. I don't love it. We've been 3-bet small and we've defended the hand that is just shit, basically. It's just a shit hand. Even if we make a really big hand, we don't stand to win a lot of money because he hasn't got a lot of money. Yeah, I don't like it. Do not like. Like they're not running it twice. Oh, all of a sudden we switched to 2 big blind opening. You have to explain to me why that's a thing. We have been 3xing routinely, and all of a sudden we've gone with the 2x with a. Well, I don't know. With what? I mean, I'm not sure what your motivation is. We're just going with the min race here. Again, here we've gone with a big sizing. I don't hate it, but again, what are we targeting? When we go this size, I mean, yeah, 9x has to call. Probably ace-x. I mean, it doesn't. Well, the problem is what ace-x to get them in. I guess to get through with some ace-x because the flop was checked through, and then we bet the turn. And maybe ace-high calls because I think it's chopping. I don't know. But again, I would have preferred a smaller size here on this board texture. But we did get called, and we got called by ace high, so that's nice. But generally, I prefer a smaller bet in that spot. Right. Did he call 2-bet to the ace high? Don't think he did. Don't think he did call 2. I think you got a bad note there, sir. Yeah, flop checks through. He calls turn with ace high, but he calls river with a pair. So you got a bad note there, Chief. Do not like the 3-bet with king jack off versus under the gun. I think we have a reasonably happy call with a green tag in there. Yeah, not a fan. Don't hate it. It's got some decent blocking qualities, I suppose, but yeah, I think I prefer just calling there. Yeah, we took it down though, so what the fuck do I know? Sadly, we've allowed our hand to be counterfeited here. I understand why we would want to check the flop against a fish, but when he checks twice, I think we should probably just bet the turn. We do not want to be giving free cards to his diamonds. Any like random diamond, if he's got in there with, I don't know, say fucking ace-6 with a diamond, we're just giving him a free shot at a big chunk of equity, and now we've been counterfeited, and now we're just going to lose the pot nearly all the time. I think like flop check back, I can get on board with it against a fish. But I think the turn when he checks again, I think we just need to bet, just like get some value from hands that we're beating, and also just to make sure we don't allow our opponent just to walk into the end zone and into a winner like we probably have here. There again, 10-8 suited from the cutoff. Mandatory open in my book. Mandatory. Again, I think just that opening 10-8 suited there just makes money, and we haven't done it, so we've missed an opportunity to make some EV there. So we flop a set of deuces here on the dry king high board. I get the feeling you're going to go with the 2/3 pot. I think this is just a smaller c bet than that. I think 2.5, even 2 blinds, completely fine. And he folds. I mean, maybe he folds when we just make it 2.5 blinds there, but yeah, it's a very dry flop. It's good for our range. It's to me, it's a board we just want to be c-betting with a very high frequency using a pretty small sizing. Yeah, again, you just went with your 2/3 pot, which maybe he folds everything, but again, it's just another demonstration to me that you're not putting enough thought into what your range looks like, what your opponent's range looks like, and what the board texture is. You're just auto c-betting, auto piloting. 10-8 us, probably an open from the small blind, maybe not, but F from the button, but I think it's probably just an open. Queen 9 suit is definitely going to be in a please don't fold the Queen 9 suited blind versus blind, sir. Good we didn't. I thought we were going to for a second. Don't think I like the bet here. I mean, it's worked, but yeah. Don't think I like betting fourth pair there. Maybe it's fine. So we have the King 10 off here. I hope we don't call. Should be a very, very easy fold. So you're not quite sure. And again, that tells me that you're just not super confident in your ranges the way you were like, not sure. To 4x open, we have King 10 off suit. excuse me, it's just a mandatory fold. So the fact you were like between the two tells me that again, you just don't know your ranges well enough. There are some that are going to be close, and you're going to like, oh, I'm not sure which one's this, which is this. It's right on the borderline. King 10 off is not right on the borderline there. If you were like, I don't know, like 8-7 suited there, or I don't know, ace 10 off suit, something like that, I get the where we are. It's just it's a closer spot. King 10 off's just a slam dunk fold versus the 4x. Really do not like this call with the sevens. Really don't like it. I mean, what are we hoping to hit on the turn? 7. That's it. I think when we're in a multi-way pot and there's been a bet and a call on a pretty dry flop like this, pocket sevens just drops into a folding range. Here we three bet 9-8 suited earlier. Now we're not 3-betting 7-8 suited. I'm not saying we should 3-bet it. It's just, again, to me, it shows a little bit of inconsistency in what you're doing pre-flop. I'm not saying the 9-8 suited earlier should have been a 3-bet. I'm not saying it should have been. I'm just saying that the two hands are very close together. Last time it was under the gun, we were cut off. This time it was middle position versus cut off, I think. So in very similar spots. If anything, his range is slightly wider than the under the gun range, even though he looks like he's playing tighter. I don't know. I mean, I'm not saying we should play the hand there. I'm just picking up on something that might be an inconsistency. All right, c-bet with the queen 8 on the 10-10-9. See again here, we've gone with the 2/3 pot sizing. I mean, I think we can maybe bet this turn. I'm not sure I love it, to be honest. We've picked up some showdown value. He can have some better queens than us. King, queen, queen, jack, etc. Don't think we need to use this size, to be honest. Probably favour a check back, if anything, but yeah, it's just this 2/3 pot. It's just like incessantly 2/3 pot. I don't like it. We get raised here, we have to fold, and that stinks when we put a large bet in. We river a straight, but it's a shit end of a straight. Do a favour a bet here. I guess I do, but a small one. Again, 2/3 pot. It's not good. It's not good using the same sizing all the time when we're for like lots of different hand strengths and lots of different board textures. It's just not good. It's just not something you want to be doing. It just shows that you're not putting an awful lot of thought into the game, to be frank. Not really sure what we're trying to represent here. Let's go back and look at this king queen hand from the start, because it's an awfully big pot for air. So we've raised pre. We've been 3-bet. Called, which I don't like. King queen off is not a hand I mean, if we want to continue there, I'd much prefer using our hand's good blocking qualities to 4-bet bluff, but I'd prefer just to fold in general. It certainly don't like calling. He bets small, 2/3 pot, 1/3 pot. We instantly went to fold, then we went to call. Turn. Checks through. Ah, right, I understand. So I guess we're just trying to get him off ace highs, etc. So, yeah, I think getting to the river with this hand is the way we played it isn't good. But once we've got to the river this way and our opponent has checked back the turn, then yeah, I think betting to make him fold his ace size is good. I don't think we need to use the size that we go with. Was it our usual third pot? Let's see. 2/3 pot, sorry. Yeah, it was. You know, we don't need to use this much money. We're trying to make him fold ace high here. We don't need to be using this sizing. You know, I think we could probably bet. I mean, we're gonna have a lot of pocket pairs to take this line. You know, we've called a 3-bet pre. We've check called the flop. Turn's gone check. Now we're leading the river. You know, we're gonna want to value bet this hand with. Oh yeah, if we were value betting, pocket nines, pocket tens, jack X, stuff like that. It's not a size. This size just doesn't make an awful lot of sense, given that we think our opponent's weak. You know, he knows he looks weak. Yeah, we just don't need to use this sizing. I'd much prefer to see again something just over half pot. You know, like 18 to 20 bigs, and I just want to see you putting more thought into your bet sizing, basically. In close to the end of the video, and I'll sum up my thoughts at the end on what I think you need to do to eliminate some of the pretty big leaks we've seen in this video. Now with 11xing versus a min raise under the gun, which is different to what you normally do. I mean, I don't hate it for the record. At least you put a bit of thought into it. You've actually used a scroller, etc. We no reads on this play. It's brand new table to us, just about, I guess. Yeah, I don't hate this at all. Maybe it's touch on the big side, but rather go too big than too small in spots like this, especially where we're not going to be folding to. Right, hang on. Again, look how quickly we call here. We have a situation when he 4-bets. We should be deciding, you know, do we jam, do we fold? And we don't know anything about our opponent. So we can't really be thinking about our reads, but it's our reads on the pool. And what are people's 4-betting range like under the gun? I mean, we have a hand we're never folding, don't get me wrong. But we know there's merit to just 5-bet shoving here. And I prefer that over calling, I think. But just look how quickly you call. I mean, he's made it 34 big blinds, which is an unusual sizing, which we should be taking some time to consider. And just look how quick you just snap call, bang. And now we're just in a situation where there's nothing we can do to continue 60 blind pot, and we're just in check fold mode. And I guess a 34 big blind. I think both folding and jamming both have merit. I think I'd be too indisciplined to fold, so I think I would jam. But what I certainly wouldn't do is call, and what I absolutely would never do is just snap call the way you did. It's a big leak, sir. It's a really big leak. And now we're going to bet, and I'm not sure. Are we going to bet? I hope we don't, because I'm not sure what we're hoping to achieve by betting. Yeah, not really sure what's going on here. It's just a value bet. I mean, if he's got pocket jacks, he's just going to call and we're going to lose. I think I prefer just checking again here. I mean, our hands. I mean, bearing in mind is, we're facing a under the gun 4-bet. I mean, we try to get him off chops. I don't know. I don't know what this bet is for. But we won, so at least that's a positive to take from the hand. That's it. That's pretty much the end. I'll see if these pocket 8s play out, but I don't think they're going to know that. That's the end of the video. Let's just rewind it back a touch so we're not on my YouTube favourite end screen. So, yes, pretty disappointed with that video, I think. I don't think you played too well, to be honest. And I think the main reason you didn't play well is your complete unwillingness to pause for thought and consider your opponent's ranges, both pre-flop and post-flop. You are acting way too quickly. Your game isn't in a good enough place. Well, no one's game is really in a good enough place to play as quickly as you do. You just rapid fire, putting almost no thought into any decision. I get where your pre-flop opens. I mean, that's another issue. I don't think your pre-flop ranges are particularly good, especially from the cut-off and button. I think you're playing too tightly. I think you possibly not been that much evidence, but possibly defending too many hands from the blinds too. I think your pre-flop ranges need work. Your post-flop hand reading is non-existent. You just seem to be just like, if you have a goodish hand, you just seem to be wanting to bet 6% pot. If you have a baddish hand, you just like check folding it too easily, or turning, hands that have showdown value into bluffs for no good reason. There's a lot to work on, sir. I know we've talked a bit on Skype lately about you saying that you feel like you're playing really quite well and just bad things are happening to you and you're losing money just to some ridiculous situations. And I'm not denying that could easily be true, but there's so much room for improvement in how you're approaching the game at the moment. There's room for improvement everywhere. Pre-flop, your ranges, you don't know them well enough. Post-flop, you are using the same sizings on various board textures with different parts of your range, which was maybe not bad 5 years ago, pretty bad now. It just tells me that you're not really thinking about your range, you're not thinking about your opponent's range, you're not thinking about board textures and whose range they favour. There's a lot to think about, and you're putting no thought in whatsoever, and I can say that with a degree of certainty because of how quickly you are acting at all times. My advice to you would be to play far fewer tables and just work very, very hard on putting thought process in place. And that's difficult when you don't, maybe you're acting so quickly because you're not sure what to think about. But I mean, you've got me to talk to. There's loads and loads of like good free content out there that will help you develop post-op thought process. Because at the moment, you clearly do not have post-op thought processes because the speed at which you're acting tells me you cannot be going through any thought processes other than, oh, I have Jack, that's a pretty good hand, so I'm going to bet it, even if there's a queen out there or a king out there. I'm just going to bet it, which sometimes is going to be good, sometimes it's going to be less good, but always then using your 66% bet size is just bad, sir. It's just bad. You're just not thinking. You're just not demonstrating that you're a thinking player, and there's lots and lots of work to do. And now I know you, and I know how keen you are. So hopefully these are things that we can work on going forward. It's been an eye opener, this, because the small amount of work we've done so far, I was under the impression that you were more thoughtful than it seems you are when you're playing. Maybe that's a product of playing 4 tables and feeling rushed. Maybe a lot of the time when people are playing too quickly, it's a product of I don't really know what to do. I'm just going to fucking do something and see what happens, or I just want this hand to be over now as quickly as possible because I don't know what to do in it. There's lots of reasons why people play fast, but it's not something you want to do. I wrote an article years ago for Microgrinder about the importance of slowing down, taking your time over your decisions, etc. And it could have been made for you because you are just not putting any thought into anything, really. You're just autopiloting your way through sessions. And to be honest, your ranges pre-flop and post-flop aren't good enough for you to autopilot through sessions. If you were to do this constantly, you would unquestionably be a long-term losing player. And we need to shake some of these terrible habits pretty quickly. The first thing we need to do is just break your bad habits and just get you slowing down and taking more time. And then when you slow down, you start taking more time and your mind's blank, then you're identifying like gaps in your knowledge, holes in your thought processes, which you can then come to me or to other people who you study with, or go to training site forums and just start posting spots where you just don't know what to do and start getting a better idea about what to think about. You're never going to get this is what you do exactly in this spot all of the time for most situations. The best we can do is like learn what thought processes we need to go to, which will lead us to good decisions more often. At the moment, you're not going through any thought processes really, and it's leading you to just like a scattergun approach of like sometimes you'll land on the right decision by pure chance rather than by going through thought processes. If you put more and more good thought processes in place, the chances are you're going to get to more good decisions more often. So yeah, you need to slow down. The work you need to be doing immediately is, getting your head in some pre-flop range charts for both open ranges, defending versus 3-bet ranges, etc. Post-flop, you need to do more study on which boards are good for you to attack, which boards are good for you to slow down on, etc. And then you need to, when you've got that information, you've studied it, you need to then take your time out at the tables and try and start to apply some of the things that you think you've learned. You'll still make some mistakes, you'll still have losing sessions, etc., but you'll be on the right path. If you continue on this path with the just reckless speed at which you're playing, you're not going to improve, your results aren't going to improve, and you're just going to become disheartened. So do some work on your pre-flop ranges, do some work on identifying boards that are good for you, boards that are bad for you. It'll help improve your hand reading skills. Get rid of this autopilot looking 66% bet size all times. And there's a lot of work to do, sir, but there's no doubt in my mind that, with your enthusiasm, we can get there. But you've got some pretty shitty habits that might be hard to break unless you really commit to just saying, right, I'm just going to play less tables. I'm going to give everything total consideration. What's really easy to do is just throw yourself into volume. And then if you're playing just 2 tables for, say, a couple of hours a night, see what you're going to be playing, 400 hands a day, just 3,000 hands a week. It can be easy to feel like you're making no progress whatsoever. I need to be doing more. I need to be playing more hands. I need to be doing this, that, and the other. But right now, the priority is just slowing you the fuck down and getting some good, very basic, fundamental thought processes in play. And then just turning you into a more thoughtful player. Volume can come later when you get your game, when your autopilot game gets to a point where it's good enough. When your autopilot game isn't good enough and yours isn't good enough, then just all adding volume does, it just increases your hourly loss. Your win rate, big blind per 100 maybe won't change too much, but you'll just be losing more per hour than you will at 2 tables. Because at the moment you're a losing player, and being a losing player with a bad autopilot game, playing too many tables, it's none of that's going to help you. We need to slow it down, 1 or 2 tables, and just put tons of thought in. And the focus right now just needs to be improving as a player. Forget volume, forget trying to make any money, forget all of those things. Just right now, your challenge is get much better as quickly as possible, by making sure that you have a better handle on how you want to be playing certain boards, how you want to be playing certain parts of your range, etc., rather than just mashing buttons, which is all we've really done in this video, I'm afraid. Don't mean to be cruel, it feels horrible saying it, but there's no point sugarcoating these things. I hope you got something from it. I hope that this will have you coming back to me with a lot of questions, because that's what I'm here for. And good luck, sir. Good luck with the future sessions. As you know, any questions, fire them at me in Skype. I usually respond pretty quickly to you. And yeah, maybe we can do a session pretty soon with some follow-up questions you've got from watching this. But yeah, we'll leave it there, buddy, and have a good day.